Well, good afternoon. Thanks for coming along today, the Tuesday edition. Greetings to you. It is a gorgeous day here. Sun is shining today, as a matter of fact. Kath, good to see you as well. All dressed up in the plaid. Looks very comfortable.
'Tis the season.
'Tis the season.
I thought, though, when I was getting dressed this morning, that when I've worn plaid in the past, you've also worn plaid. It's been a lot. But today you didn't, and so I'm glad.
Yeah, good. Because the last thing you want to do is check in on what I'm wearing.
Well, I mean, I just don't want. For those people watching, those people watching the stream on YouTube, the ride, what's it called? The word Pittsburgh. I forgot how you find it.
10,000 strong.
I don't want them to have be assaulted by too many plaids. Is what I'm saying.
Plaid. It's radio. I mean, there's plenty of room for plaid and radio. Is there not? Yes, there is.
Plaid and radio?
Yeah. Hey,
radio's not just radio anymore, as they tell me.
Breaking news.
Yeah, well,
breaking news here.
About it in the top four.
Okay,
so just give me a hot second.
I'm jumping in there.
I mean, for goodness sake, John.
Because I'm all like hot and bothered.
Pipe down about it.
I'm all excited. I'm not sad, or I don't know. Sheesh.
All right, hit the music. Let's just get into it right now.
All right, here's the top four at 4.
All right, for Tuesday, November 16th, 2021.
Ay, caramba.
I don't know. Wall Street Journal is reporting that Fenway Sports Group, the holding company that owns the Boston Red Sox, is in advanced talks to buy the Pens. According to people familiar with the matter. And not only that,
painful,
but the deal could be finalized later this week.
It's a done deal. If they're announcing it to the press, it's a done deal.
Cow.
Handshakes have gone around. Things have, right?
All right. So this is a breaking news story. So we don't have a whole lot of detail. In fact, we have very few details, except that DK Sports is reporting that Mario will retain a minority stake in the company.
That's good news.
That Ron Burkle is out, and that upper management, including David Morehouse, will stay.
All right.
The Pens have been owned by Mario since what year?
99?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they sold the wrong team. Had it been the Pirates, people would have been out in the street ringing cowbells.
No kidding.
Right?
If we heard this news about the Pirates, we would have had to cancel the ride home because the three of us would have been going through the streets of Green Tree with confetti.
I know. My head would have exploded. But the Pens, now look.
I have a lot of security. No, look, it's supposed to be the top 4 at 4. I mean, for crying out loud. I have a lot of security knowing Mario owns the team, you guys.
He's a minority owner, so nothing's
minority owner doesn't have much power, John. That's why they're a minority.
Yeah. It's Mario. It's not like, someone's going to rip off Mario. Do you think? Oh, you're the guy who ripped off Mario.
Like the Fenway Group gives a care about who Mario is?
I think that they would care.
They own half of Fenway Park.
I'm ascribing...
And the Boston Red Sox.
I'm ascribing good values to them. I don't know them, but I'm hoping for the best. That's all.
Number 2. Number 1 was hard, wasn't it?
I'm done.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and his ally, Belarus longtime autocratic leader Alexander Lukashenko, are being accused of using immigration to stoke tensions in Eastern Europe. Belarus now faces new sanctions from the EU over the worsening migrant crisis along its border with Poland. According to CBS News, Polish authorities use water cannons and other means to keep thousands of increasingly frustrated migrants massed along its border out today. One of the migrants told CBS News that Polish police responded with a volley of tear gas and rubber bullets, as well as the water cannon. Migrants were seen hurling rocks and stones at the barbed wire fence. Desperate people have flocked to the area. They're stranded. They're freezing. And nobody cares about them. The bottom line is, like people on those borders have been for 70 years, they are pawns in a standoff between other powers. That's just what it is. It's absolutely tragic.
I saw this article. I read this article today. I'm not sure it's the one you're referring to. But what's interesting is when you see these people, what are you calling them? Refugees.
Migrants.
I mean, they're dressed and they're wearing great footwear. I mean, they're all sort of like holding sleeping bags, or they're carrying bags that has printing on it as though it's from one group.
Well, so the suspicion is that Lukashenko is engineering this whole thing and Putin is giving him the support he needs to do.
It looks well funded. That's all I can say.
Number 3. Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, and Tom Felton. If those names ring a bell to you, you're probably a Harry Potter fan. They're going to travel back to Hogwarts with filmmaker Chris Columbus for an HBO Max special to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the first film, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which premiered in the U.S. on this day, 2000 and... Yep, that's correct. HBO Max announced the retrospective special, 20th anniversary special today, corresponding with the anniversary. It will arrive January 1st and feature in-depth interviews, cast conversations, behind-the-scenes stuff. Helena Bonham Carter will be there. Bellatrix Lestrange. Robbie Coltrane's Hagrid will be there. He Who Must Not Be Named, Ralph Fiennes, also will be there. No word yet on whether J.K. Rowling will take part. That's from USA Today. And number 4, the Christmas tree at Point State Park will be back.
Woo.
After last year's announcement that 2020 would be the final time for the season, people just wouldn't have it.
I love it.
Pete Linko is a resident of Cross Creek Township in Washington County. He led a petition that got more than 10,000 signatures.
Wow.
This is what he said. Ted said this, quote, 10,000 Yinsers said, not so fast. The tree will be privately lit 6 p.m. Thursday evening, but it'll be the last year for the tree in its present form, but plans are currently underway to create a new and more modern one. And that is your top 4 at 4.
I like it very, very much.
A new and more modern Christmas tree. Now, what's that? Is that going to be weird, like it's all metal or something?
You could probably charge your iPhone on it. Something
It's
like
going to have
that.
a USB at the bottom.
Right, it could be. I don't know. It won't be like, remember, it won't be like the round rotating cellophane color thing. You don't remember that? Mm-mm. What? People would have like their aluminum Christmas tree, and then they'd have a light bulb, and there'd be like this big thing that would rotate different colors, blue, green, red, and it would turn your Christmas tree different colors.
I don't
You
know
never
this.
saw that?
Uh-uh.
What? You never
No.
saw that?
Why would you want to turn your Christmas tree different colors?
Because it was modern.
Okay.
It was hip. It was something new and exciting. Sure, I'm surprised you don't know that.
No, I don't want the pens to be sold to somebody who's not Mario.
Well,
I trust Mario. I
If
don't.
wishes
why
were
don't-
fishes, right?
I don't trust the Fenway Sports Group. What do I know about
We
them?
don't know nothing. We don't know nothing. That's the quote of the day. Welcome. We don't know nothing. All right, let's get out of here.
All right. Coming up next, our good friend Doug Birch is going to be with us from the state of Washington. Preemptive love for the holidays. Let's give it a try.
Sounds like an album, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Coming up next,
we could record
we're
it.
spinning Preemptive Love for the Holidays. This time next week, is it Thanksgiving? Thanksgiving holidays upon
Well,
us.
not this time next week.
Well, you
It's
know what I'm
Tuesday.
saying. Yeah, but shopping, baking, all that.
All the baking you're going to do.
I'm just saying, on the arc of where we are holiday-wise.
Like if there was someone that we had on the show who was baking, that's when they would start baking.
Right. I salute you in your baking efforts.
Right.
In a peaceful way.
Yeah.
Doug Bursch is with us. Doug is a regular guest on our show. He is the co-pastor of Evergreen Foursquare Church in Auburn, Washington. Peace be with you, Doug.
Peace to you as well. Good to be on the Kathy and long-term intern show.
Yep, there it is.
That's so rough. So we have an ongoing dispute. I'm sure that surprises you, Doug. That John is frequently will talk about a baked good or
a dish,
perhaps a dish like an entree or something, and he'll say, "Well, I mean, it's not like it's that hard to cook."
So easy.
And then I'd say, "Have you ever cooked that?" And he says, "Well, no, but my wife has."
I watch her. It looks so easy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, John is a man, and men are good at explaining things, just not doing them. Once you have to do it, it's work. We're all about the vision.
Yeah, is that what it is?
For Thanksgiving that someone else needs to implement.
Yeah, I'm a vision guy.
Great. All right. So speaking of implementation, planning the meal is going to be nothing compared to trying to figure out how to implement like actual peace across family members who have different ideas about vaccines, about masks, about social distance,
The future of this nation.
Right, about political candidates. I mean,
all that.
God help us, Doug. Please speak some peace into this.
I'm getting nervous. You're just mentioning those things.
Yeah.
I almost hung up.
You brought it up.
Yeah, just turn to Uncle Carl and say, "What about Trump?" And just see what happens. See all the fun that occurs from that. No. So first, I wanted to give a preemptive peace plan. But first, I just want to announce my war on fruitcake. So every year, I'm just like, let's stop it. Let's just
I'm in your army.
We just got a catalog the other day that had like multiple different varieties of fruitcake. And I thought, that doesn't look that bad. I would try a fruitcake.
Yeah,
No
that's
way.
what sin is like. Sin doesn't look that bad, but it destroys. We got to get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Get rid of fruitcake at any level.
No, wait. As a pastor, do you get fruitcake? People give you?
No.
They gift you?
Here's the deal, John. I need this to be clear. No one should be able to send you a fruitcake without written permission.
Yeah.
You have to send a letter that forces.
Because what are you going to do with it? If you're not going to eat it. So it's going to be up to you to dispose of it.
Yeah, right. You're just going to pass it on to someone else.
I think it gets a bad rap. I really do. It's not that bad.
Absolutely not.
It really
it's the
is.
worst possible invention.
It's easy to kick down the the steps.
And if you mailed it, it would cost you like $18 because they're so heavy.
Right, they are.
Forget it.
No, it's okay. It's okay to be wrong, John. I know in the past we had fruitcake and it was just wonderful, and grandma and great grandma did it. But we also had polio and we eradicated that.
Right.
So we need to eradicate fruitcake.
Oh, great.
Well.
So a vaccine for fruitcake. That's the next thing we can fight about.
There you go.
There goes the peace out the window.
So yeah, by the way, you got the fruitcake people upset at you now, and they're tough because they'll just start mailing you fruitcake. So this is what I wanted to talk about. Peace. We need to have a preemptive plan, or we're just going to be in trouble. And going into the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and I just wanted to give you a very simple way to kind of go through this. And John and Kathy, you can go through this as well.
Thank you.
First, write down the things that are just taking away your peace, just in general. And then also the holiday related things that are taking away your peace. Now, some of us just in general, we are facing things we've never faced before. I did this in our church, and so many people were like, we are understaffed and overworked, and it's taking away my peace. How many people listening right now are in that category right now, where they are? We had some medical profession, teachers, just every day I go to work, I know that we won't have enough staff and we'll have more work than ever before. That alone can take away your peace, right?
I'm sure.
So I think we need to not only write these things down, but share it with each other. In your family, like gather the family together before we get to sit down and say, here's where I'm at. This is where I'm losing my peace. Not blaming you guys. It's not a way to say you're making me lose my peace.
Great.
Just to share that, because there's something about just confessing that and coming together and praying over that. And then also it prepares us. So we're ready. Like every year, when do you lose your peace? Like I lose my peace setting up the Christmas tree. It's a common stressor for me. So I just beforehand say, I will not argue. I will not fight. I will not yell. However the tree looks, it looks. Whatever directions I get while I'm under the tree about it, whether it's straight or crooked or whatever, I'm just going to accept them and bless the Lord. But we have to ahead of time come up with this, just what causes us peace. And I want some of your listeners to do this. Your pastor's doing all the work, preaching and helping you out. You do some of the work this week. Next thing I want you to do is find some scriptures on peace. Just look them up. Search peace. Find some scriptures on peace and put them up. Put them up in your house. Put them where you need peace. Maybe where you do the most fighting. I don't know. You might need to put it in the bedroom. Put something where the fights occur on the wall. A scripture of peace. And you can find one, you can Google it, and you can put that up. And scripture has power. And I know as a pastor, whenever I'm forced to preach on a topic, it's amazing how it influences my life. My wife a couple of weeks ago was like, you need to preach on hope. And I'm like, no, I don't. I have no hope. I was really in a bad place. But guess what happened? As I studied the scripture on hope and prepared a message on hope, hope rose up in me. So we need to stir up our hearts with that. So I want to encourage your listeners, find some scriptures on peace and, put them on the wall. Great. Another big one is to learn to pray for peace. And I want to give people a listening exercise that doesn't really work well on radio because there's silence, but I'm going to tell you something that you can do. Every word is a symbol. Like the word Jesus is Jesus. Do those letters in and of themselves mean anything? Well, they only mean something because the Spirit of God enlivens those words. So when we say Jesus, Jesus is present in those words, but the letters themselves are just letters and how we describe Jesus. So every letter is a symbol. I want you to know that there's other things in your life that are a symbol as well. Breath can become a prayer. Where breathing out, it's not a word, it's just breathing out. And we all have communicated through breath, right? When you're exasperated and you go, you just give a groan with your kids, your spouse, work. You don't even have words. Well, breath can become a prayer. So I want to encourage some of your listeners this week to stop and just breathe out. And when you breathe out, just breathe out everything to the Lord. Just give him, I give you my anxieties, I give you my fears, I give you my worries, just breathe out. Just breathe out. And then when you breathe in this, Lord, I receive your peace, your care, your comfort. And this isn't some weird new agey kind of thing. It's a prayer. You're saying, Lord, this breath has this meaning. As I'm breathing out, it means this. I'm surrendering my life to you. I'm surrendering my concerns to you, my family to you, my work towards you. But I don't have time to say it all out in words that don't make any sense. I'm just going to breathe it out, right? And when you breathe in, you're saying, Lord, I am welcoming the full provision of your kingdom right now. Anything you have, any resources, any wisdom, any insight, I breathe that in. You know, scripture is spirit breathed, right? Scripture came alive because God breathed and the scripture was formed. Well, it's the same kind of aspect as well here as we allow the breath of God to enliven our heart. So I think that's something your listeners can do. One other area here, and this is a 4-point sermon, and I will be passing around the offering plate at the end and asking everyone to sign up for the nursery.
Good. Mine's digital.
But another area is I'd like you to create some sort of altar or some sort of thing or object that reminds you to apportion peace. So for some of you, it might be this: carry around, you can carry around a rock if you want in your pocket, or I have a tiny prayer journal that I can just put peace on it. And having it in my pocket with my wallet reminds me that peace is available. And so when I'm in a place of conflict, of stress, the anxiety's rising up in me, maybe for you guys, it's right before the show, or when some guy goes on a long tangent about fruitcake and it's not really topic related. Whenever that happens, you can just grab that peace, journal in your hand, and then just say, Lord, I know you're present. I make room for you. I make room for your peace. Yeah. Whatever works for you. People have different ways to do this. Some, they might have a corner of the house, like, what's that thing that has a Bible and a candle and a this, and it's this little altar? There's your altar of peace. You light a candle. You make room for the Lord, even for the whole family. You're like, hey, everybody stop right now. I'm going to go light a candle. They're like, what's Dad? Dad's just saying, we need peace. We're fighting. We're angry. We're confused. We're just going to stop and make room for the Lord. So if we're not intentional with this, our peace will be stolen. Something else is going to come along and take away our peace. I don't know for you guys, but for the holidays, what's the big one that takes away your peace? I mean, what is it? Like, what is it? Family concerns? Is it your own expectations? What hits you?
It's always my own expectations.
Really?
Yeah.
That you think that things should be
Right.
this
And
hallmark way.
you know what's interesting is and this is a sickness. And I don't know if this is better or worse than the alternative, but I put all that on myself. I truly don't think I look at other people and have expectations for them in particular, but I don't know if I can't do a certain thing or it's nutty.
Right. Okay. So if I'm the host, if our family's hosting for our larger family, all that preparation, all the cleaning, all the food, all that steals my peace. And then when everybody arrives, then you're the host and I'm not really enjoying myself. I'm just, making sure that everything's cool. Which is
to be present with people, right?
Yeah.
And I think even if you trust those people, maybe bring that into the gathering. Say right now, we've all been very harried and hurried, and we're all here together right now. And I'll even let you know right now, I'm glad you're here, but I've been preparing stuff and moving around, and I feel like I'm not present with people, and I want to be present with you. And can we just stop? Make room for God's peace. I know there's other people in that same situation feeling that responsible and their issues and all, I to me, that's been I'm an anxious person. I try to, it never goes as planned. And it's helped me the best to be like, whatever comes here, God, you're the God of peace. You're not surprised by what's happening right now. You're with me. And the best thing I can present is a non-anxious presence. But even if I do, I want to encourage people, you still get anxious, you're not peaceful. Don't condemn yourself about that. Just go to that altar, go to those scriptures, go to the Lord. He's not surprised that you didn't stick to your peace plan, but he's given you a place to meet him and to abide with him.
I love it.
Doug Burch is with us, co-pastor of Evergreen Foursquare Church in Auburn, Washington, host of the fairly spiritual radio program and podcast, also author of the book Posting Peace, Why Social Media Divides Us and What We Can Do About It. Doug, I want to ask you about people who work in churches. I've been on a church staff for a long time, and I never enjoy Christmas, and I never enjoy Easter.
Yeah.
Because you're working.
Because you're working.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad you could say that.
Yeah, I feel for years I couldn't say it out loud, and then finally a couple years ago I thought, well, this is dumb.
Hiding?
Why am I? Yeah, and the reason that I have a hard time enjoying it is because I'm trying so hard to make it special for everybody, because everybody has that expectation who comes into the church. There's a special service. This is special. This special that, and it's just I can't wait for either one of them to be over.
Yeah. By the way, I'm glad you could say that. One of the reasons we don't like it is we're working. And you're working on the holidays. Someone wanted me to do a sunrise service for Easter. And I'm like, that's great, but I won't be there. You can have one. I'm not going to do that. I can remember doing Christmas Eve services and then going home and putting together, a bicycle for my kids and being up until 4 a.m. But here's the thing for our church, and this might frustrate some other churches, we don't do a lot during the holidays. I think there's an aspect where churches harm their leadership by making them do 4 services on Easter and 3 services on Christmas Eve, and they wear out their leaders. And I want to model to the people who come to our church that we value our leaders. And so we're going to do something really simple. So that's the biggest way to deal with stress is we have the most simple family kind of feeling Christmas Eve service with the least amount of setup, the least amount of big presentation. Because if someone is coming to Christ because of a large presentation, that ain't enough. But you can, if they're coming because they like the spirit of the room, it's a peaceable place, people seem to love each other and are present with you, then it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how good the sermon is or how great the spectacle. And I think some of the stuff is we're all just doing it because someone else did it. But does it really change hearts? And especially Christmas Eve and Easter, some people only show up once a year or twice a year. Those really aren't our target audience. We love them, but they ain't coming back. They're just in a ritual. So to me, to put all your pressure on that day is, I personally think, I'm giving you my opinion here, but I think we're just harming our leaders. So do less. And if you have an environment that doesn't allow you to say, hey, this is hurting my family, this is hurting me, and they don't allow you to change your schedule based on that, then they need to reassess their priorities as a church, because churches should not harm their leadership.
Yeah, that's a good word, Doug. I think the other thing about just speaking as someone who is on a church staff, and I don't know if you feel the same way about this, Doug, is that a lot of it is just unspoken.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just nobody wants to feel like they're a complainer. I mean, I work for about the greatest church you could ever work for. I truly have about zero complaints. So it's not that there are a lot of churches who have, poisonous systems and have, horrible situations between management and, worker and people who don't honor one another. I don't have any of that. It's just that it's hard work. And I think maybe that's the thing that we're all starting to recognize after COVID is just for people who work in churches. It's just for like every job, it just has its own set of challenges.
Well, we need to acknowledge that people they're doing more than before. And so to me, it's not just to pretend that everything's normal. There's no getting back to normal. It's to take those accommodations, seriously. People are more burned out, so don't burn them out more by we got to do it the same way we did it last year. And so talk about these things. And that's the thing. Any relationship is unhealthy if you can't talk about it. And so that's the thing to me as a pastor, leadership, your family, at every level, right? Can we talk about how we're feeling? And even there that people acknowledge that I might be a little grumpy, but you guys are going to be with me and help me because it's important that we're doing this service and we all feel good. Even that, instead of having to hide it and put on the face and like everything's fine, when you're really like just dragging through the service, it's important, but you need people to know that you're hurting or you need help and support in the process.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey, Doug, before you leave us, give the Fairly Spiritual podcast a boost. Where can people find you?
Well, if you just pray, the Holy Spirit will show you where all my content is.
Okay, the segment's over. Thank you so much for being with us. Always appreciate your time.
No, fairlyspiritual.org. Go to fairlyspiritual.org. You'll find all kinds of resources.
All right.
Peace be with you. Thanks for that game plan. Really, it's not theory. It's something to do, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Great to
Love
see you, Doug.
Love
as
you, Doug.
always.
Always
Love
good.
you.
Happy
See you soon.
holidays.
Bye.
5 kittens were abandoned in a box left on a Port Authority bus. Someone abandoned 5 kittens. The tiny gray and white furried felines were found huddled inside a cardboard box at 8:20 a.m. on a bus traveling in Wilkinsburg on the P3 route, according to the Port Authority spokesman, Adam Brandoff. With help from the Pittsburgh's public safety officials, Port Authority police officers Michael Hudak got the kittens into the care of the Pittsburgh Animal Care and Control. City workers then surrendered the kittens to the Humane and Animal Rescue League of Pittsburgh in their East End shelter. It's unclear how long they'd been there and who let them behind, much to the surprise and dismay of drivers and passengers.
They're super cute.
Well,
I'm looking at their picture right here. They're asleep in their tiny box.
how do you get on a bus with a box of kittens? How do you walk onto a bus holding a box of kittens?
John, you have no pets right now.
I have a bird.
That's right. I keep forgetting about Pippi.
Yep.
Sorry, Pip.
I mean, they're fine. They're better off than they were before.
You could give a good home to 5 kittens.
No, there is absolutely no way. I love cats. I do.
Mm-hmm.
But God bless them. Somebody will have a little kitty to pet on Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Right?
This doesn't tug at your heartstrings at
Nope,
all.
not in the least.
Christy's is tugging at your
Nope,
heartstrings.
she's got a dog.
It does, but technically my lease says I'm not allowed to have a dog.
Oh,
so
there you go. Call the landlord.
So bringing a cat
Call
home in
that
addition to
landlord right
Milo
now.
might be a lot.
might be a little,
Violation.
yeah.
She's not getting her security deposit back.
I'm not getting that back anyway. Thanks, Milo.
Thanks, Milo. You got 2. You want 5 more?
No.
No, please.
No, but you remember when I went to get my 2, I came home with 4.
I do.
And I still remember those
Your husband's a saint.
those words that my husband said. When I walked into the kitchen, he said, "Do not tell me there are 4 cats in that carrier."
See, when he's
What do you say at that? How can you respond?
you can respond in the affirmative because it was the truth, right? When he stood at the altar with you,
Yeah.
there's his new bride.
Yeah.
Did he ever
No,
envision
that I would come home with
such
4
a
cats.
scenario?
Nope.
Right? So kudos to him for allowing 2 to stay,
Right.
right? And
Well,
then,
he wanted to.
yeah.
It wasn't like it was just I came up with
he
this idea
wanted
out of the
them.
blue.
It's just his idea.
It was our idea. The 4 of us had decided that we were going to get cats, but he was not happy
Okay.
that there were 4.
Well,
but
imagine if
2
you-
found an excellent home.
Well, you're good. You did a
They've
good job.
lived. They're living a joyful existence,
A joyful
and I
existence.
feel good about it.
Have you seen them?
I saw them maybe 2 years ago.
Are they look like yours?
They're gigantic. They're much bigger than mine.
Are they?
Yeah, they're very, very big, and they're short-haired. Mine are long-haired,
Very nice. Well, someone, I think they probably thought they were doing the right thing.
and maybe they were better.
But-
better to put them on a bus so someone will
They
take
might
care
have
of
been
them.
in a
than-
shed somewhere.
Yeah, or they might have been underneath the
Right.
wheel of a car.
I mean, if they wanted to find the person, it'd be easy to find. Wouldn't it?
Coming up next, Kevin Hayes is going to be with us. It's the 3rd anniversary of the PA Grand Jury Report on Sex Abuse in the Catholic Church. It is a solemn day, but we'll talk about what's been done since. Stay with us.
3 years ago, even though people knew it was coming, the public consciousness of Christian believers across Western Pennsylvania, across the state, around the nation, and the world, I don't think that's an exaggeration, was shocked when the PA grand jury report was released.
You remember that day?
I do remember.
I remember it so well.
You read half the front half, I read the back half, and we just, you could not believe what you were reading, the heartbreak, one story after another. Now, from that, a concerned group of 1,000 people joined forces and created Catholics for Change in our church. So on the third anniversary of the release of the PA Grand Jury Report, we are happy to welcome back to our airwaves Kevin Hayes. Kevin has been with us in the past. He's principal and founder of the Hayes Design Group, but one of the architects of Catholics for Change in our church. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John and Kathy. Good to be with you again.
Yeah, good to see you. For those of you watching, or for those of you listening, you can watch the show. The Ride Home streaming live on YouTube at The Word Pittsburgh. Kevin Hayes is joining us right here on Zoom. Kevin, it's a somber day as we think back to what we learned on that day 3 years ago. But a lot has happened since then, including a global pandemic, including financial crises. So I guess the opening question is, how do you think we're doing?
Well, I think there's still hope, and we hope in Christ, we hope in the Spirit, but it is still very sobering to think about the revelations of 3 years ago. And actually, timing-wise, I'll let all your listeners, particularly non-Catholics, kind of know something. The actual anniversary was in August, but this year we waited to release our annual report in order to coincide with the announcement by Pope Francis, the leader of the Catholic Church worldwide, in announcing a pretty big thing, which is a synod on synodality that's going to happen 2 years from now. And in October, he announced it, and he said, I want all dioceses all across the globe to join him in a 2-year discernment process of what do we need in our church. And so we, with Catholics for Change in our church, took a lot of encouragement from that announcement. We're excited about this discernment process. And so we wanted to coincide our release of this year's progress report without announcement.
Good. Fabulous. That's excellent news. But Kevin, the idea of the actuality of the Catholic Church turning a blind eye to sexual abuse in its midst, that went on for many, many decades. Thousands and thousands of boys and girls were subject to this, adults as well. Structures that have been put in place since, from the Catholic Church themselves, from higher up from the Pope down, and especially here, we're concerned about Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania. To say that work is being done, that's a positive change. There have been safeguards put in place, so these sorts of things will never happen again, yes?
Yes, some safeguards have been put in place. Unfortunately, we feel not enough has happened. And one of the things that's a little discouraging is that after 3 years, many in the church, both laity and church clerics, really want to move on and don't want to recognize just how explosive, the announcement was 3 years ago. I think that it's a heavy cross to bear of thinking of the abuse victims, abuse survivors, and their families. But in CCOC, we think it's really important to continue to lift them up, encourage them, and listen to their voices. Unfortunately, for many Catholics, as I said, both laity and hierarchy, it's hard to hear, and they would like to just kind of move on. And that's one of the things, again, many people didn't even realize the third anniversary happened in August because there just wasn't a lot of interest in it. People have, again, because I think of the pandemic, because of the spiritual exhaustion, frankly, that people have experienced. That people have a hard time continuing to hold that burden in their hearts and in their minds and in front of them.
Well, that's really unfortunate, Kevin, because the victims of these abuses haven't been able to take a day off or a few hours off. They live with the vestiges of what's been done to them. And part of the reparation of that relationship has to be that we acknowledge what's happened. So how do you feel like that needs to be done more? Do you feel like it's a situation where people aren't willing to devote the time? Is it's just too draining emotionally to keep meeting with victims, or what are your expectations that aren't being met, or your hopes that aren't being met?
It's all of the things you mentioned, Kathy, but I think it's just critical that we in the church acknowledge the pain that the abuse victims and their families have gone through. And one of the things we're continuing to ask, it's been an annual request in our progress reports, is that the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, and they're meeting this week in Baltimore, we're asking them to make a public apology and not to just say we're sorry for the pain that the victims had in being abused, but also in saying that the church hierarchy, the clerical structure of the church, played a role in those victims not having their stories heard.
Sure.
And not being, and the rest of us, lady, including myself, not being aware of what was happening.
Right. Now, I will say this, at least here in the diocese in the city of Pittsburgh, Bishop Zubik was very outspoken. I think initially the response was a little tepid, but then he's, kicked it into a different gear here. I'm sure he met with Catholics for Change in our church. He met with survivors, victims. He had meetings scheduled, I'm sure multiple times. Talk about that, about here locally and Bishop Zubik's response.
Sure. Again, initially there was an openness on Bishop Zubik's part. I mean, he's a good man. He's a prayerful man. And he did meet with us as a group. He met with us every 2 months, 4 times. But unfortunately, in July and in the fall of 2019, about a year and months after the report came out, he met with us and said, I can't meet with you any longer. He goes, I'm just getting... I'm hearing from other people that they want to meet with me, and I can't meet with everybody, so I'm just deciding I'm not going to meet with you any longer. And we thought that was unfortunate because we thought that the voices we were bringing to the table were something that would really be helpful for Bishop Zubik to hear, because I think it's important, and again, we've said this in years past when I've been on your show, the members of CCOC, we're not flamethrowers, we're not like, just throw everybody out, start over. I mean, we're lifelong Catholics who believe very much in the church and in the goodness of the church, and we want to see positive changes made. But we also want there to be a recognition that clericalism is really a problem, and that is frankly a challenge, because again, 3 years after, there has been some acknowledgement on the part of the clergy and of the hierarchy that clericalism is a problem, but there really hasn't been any substantive changes in the structure of the hierarchy.
Right. Okay. So, Kevin, for people who are not Catholic, define clericalism. That means what to you?
Sure. Yeah. Clericalism means that there is a system in place in which the clerics, the priests, the bishops, cardinals, that they are somehow viewed as being better Christians, better Catholics than the laity and women religious. And so it's kind of seen as they are better and therefore more able to govern the church and to manage the church than the laity.
I see.
And we feel that system contributed to,
without a doubt,
priests and bishops believing and then acting on that belief that it would harm the mother church too much to reveal the extent of the abuse. And so the abuse was hidden in order to protect mother church. But in our view, we feel it really hurt the church much more than it ever helped.
Kevin Hayes is with us. He's principal and founder of the Hayes Design Group, but he's with us today talking about Catholics for Change in our church as we think about the 30th anniversary of the PA Grand Jury Report on Sex Abuse in the Catholic Church. Only a couple minutes left, Kevin. I guess I just want to ask you what your, if I asked you in the next 6 months, what would you hope to see? If you had your ideal wish, and it might sound crazy, but if you could do anything in the next 6 months in the Catholic Church, and you can either go international or you can go local, what would you say?
I would say, and I'll speak locally, I think in the next 6 months, we want to see more Catholics say, I want the church to be better. I want the church to be more alive in the spirit. And I want to join other laity in demanding that the structure of the church change in order to allow that. One of the most hopeful things that has happened is that we as a group have realized that it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint, to change the structure of the church. It's been in existence as we know it for over 1,000 years. It's not going to change overnight. So we're focusing on where we see the spirit alive. And it is really in the relationships that we formed with one another in CCOC. We're doing our own liturgies once a month. And they are very faith-filled and spirit-filled. We're trying to create forums where we lift up the voices of the marginalized in the church, including abuse victims, including women. Women are marginalized in the Catholic Church, as well as LGBTQ, as well as divorced Catholics. All of them, don't feel as if they're full members of the church, and we want to help them believe that.
Excellent. Kevin, it's always good to have you with us. Thanks for coming around again.
John and Kathy, thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.
Great to be with you.
Kevin Hayes, Catholics for Change in Our Church. We'll take a quick break, come back. Opening night in the theater has a new wrinkle. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Stick around. It's The Ride Home with John and Kathy, Pittsburgh's Christian Talk, Word FM. Opening night in the theater, of course, is a great celebration. For actors and the crew and the audience, you do all the work, you set up, and boom, there it is, opening night. Well, the Guthrie Theater.
Now, wait, and you're saying that because you spent, for people who aren't familiar, you spent many decades of your life in the theater.
Nights. Yeah, loved opening nights as an actor. Just really super, super exciting. Here we are, and the real work begins. The fun begins, because once the rehearsals are over and the show's in your hands, you go at it. So the Guthrie Theater, which is in Minneapolis, it's one of the cornerstones of American theater. It's a LORT theater, a LORT A theater, League of Resident Theaters. So, everybody knows what Broadway is, but then the sort of the undergirding of true theater in this country are LORT theaters. And of that, the Guthrie is one of the crown jewels of American theater. So this past weekend, Saturday night, as a matter of fact, after more than months and months away, they shut down like everybody else did in February of 2020. They shut it down. Opening night, the first time ever in how many months? 19 months. The Guthrie was going to stage a Christmas Carol. House goes to half, which means essentially, in a football analogy, you've just kicked the ball off to the team. Boom, we're up and running. House at half. House goes to half at the Guthrie Theater on Saturday night. Some audience member stands up and starts to scream.
Wait, everybody's in the theater?
Theater's full. It's a sold-out house. They're going to see A Christmas Carol, right? The holiday production of the Guthrie. Starts to scream, yelling about her rights have been violated. Get out of my country. You're all a bunch of losers. And then in the inside poker theater world, she starts screaming Macbeth, 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 which, if you're an actor, you should never, it's just an old theater tradition. Don't say Macbeth in the theater. Apparently, this brouhaha went on for 40 minutes at the Guthrie Theater, and then the show was canceled. This is where we've come in this country. A venerable tradition.
That's pitiful.
It is pitiful. Right. No charges have been filed. People were just outraged.
So she just took the whole place down,
She
basically.
did. One person took it down. Yep. Someone says, I'm so shaken by what happened before Christmas Carol at the Guthrie Theater. A woman who was clearly mentally unwell threw a fit about masks and was screaming and yelling racial slurs that delayed the show a half an hour, and then finally the show was canceled. I mean, I don't know. How do you tie all that together? People have lost their minds. Clearly, you become unhinged. You hold onto something so tight, and then you find yourself in a public setting. This is where we are. Heaven help us.
I would so love to see a show right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you what I'd do to be in a seat, let alone, not
Theaters are back.
canceling the whole thing.
But it's still a very odd experience.
And it's an
Live
expensive
theater.
experience.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Take a break, come back. We're going to reset the table for the 5 o'clock hour.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about forming racial bonds that last. We've got a black pastor and a white pastor who've been pastoring a church together. They're going to talk about what their experience has been and what we can learn from it. It's coming up next. The Ride Home.
Hey, good afternoon. Greetings. Thanks for coming along today. Tuesday edition. I'm headed out of here. As soon as the show's over, I'm getting out of my chair and running to my car. Because tonight is the long-awaited, you've seen the ads, the Van Gogh Immersive. My wife and I are headed down to check it out.
I'm super excited for you.
Me too. Someone said bring a pillow.
Yeah, well, because there aren't chairs in there.
Right.
And so you can sit on the floor.
Fine.
Which, are you fine with that?
Yeah, I don't care.
Really? I kind of thought that you'd want to bring a pillow or like some
I'll bring a pillow. I'll bring a pillow.
Oh, you are going to bring a pillow?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And it's over on the north side, is that right?
I don't know. I've got the address somewhere.
You think you're going to figure that out before you go?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's easy. My wife's got that. Okay.
Listen, I think it's great. The only thing I'm a little disappointed about is how short it is.
45 minutes.
Yeah. But that's okay because you know what? It's going to be worth it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. You're going to the gift shop afterwards. Buying a calendar.
Get out of here. You're not doing that.
A mug.
You're not doing that.
This is my Van Gogh tote bag. Or my hat. My Van Gogh hat.
That's lame.
You know they're selling stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Exit through the gift shop.
Let me say this. If ever anyone who's listening has the opportunity to go to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam.
Oh, my gosh. Wouldn't that be nice?
It is.
Yeah, well, you've already been there. So why would you go to the Van Gogh Immersive thing? Because you've already seen
It's different. It's just different.
You've
You
seen
miss
like
it.
the real Van Gogh up close and in person.
They've just done such it's like a love story to an artist.
yeah.
The people who put it together, it's just really sweet.
Excellent.
It's really, really sweet. People who work there call him Vincent.
Vincent.
Like he's their friend.
Isn't that funny how, someone who was so in turmoil in his life.
I think that's why, part of the reason why he's so beloved is because he was so human. He was such a fellow sufferer that people look on him and say, "Oh, yeah, I get that."
Yeah, I mean, even the town that he lived in, like, oh, here comes this crazy person.
I know.
They put up with his, shenanigans. Is he drunk? Is he just insane? What's going on with the guy? And then really didn't care much about his paintings until after the fact. And his brother Theo did a wonderful job of making
And
sure.
his sister-in-law is the one that really caused
Put it together.
Yep, really put it together.
Excellent.
Yeah. And
Well,
she-
good. Look forward to it.
Yeah, you're going to have a terrific night. All right, and we've got a great 5 o'clock hour coming. Jay Stewart and Derek Hawkins are going to be with us in just a couple minutes. One is a black pastor, one's a white pastor. They're going to talk about what it's been like to co-pastor a church and the kinds of stuff that we can all gain, the kinds of skills we can gain, the kind of openness we can gain, and just what we're missing by being so segregated.
Welded.
Yeah.
That's next. Yeah.
But before we do that,
Yeah.
it is National Fast Food Day.
Is it? Well, who doesn't like their fast food?
Well, I don't really like fast food all
What?
that much.
What?
It's
You
not
don't
my
like-
thing.
Really?
It's not my thing.
Christy?
Chick-fil-A all day.
Chick-fil-A. I am with
Okay,
you.
so would you say that's your favorite? Obviously, that's your favorite.
Yeah.
John.
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I have 2 articles that I read today that I thought were interesting. One is from Title Max, which is like a survey-based organization. They keep track of data and, data mapping and that sort of thing. Anyway, these are the top 10 fast food restaurants by sales in America.
Okay.
You want to name what you think is in the top 10, or do you want me to
No,
read
just
them?
run them down.
Number 10, Pizza Hut. That surprises me.
You thought it would be higher?
No, I thought it wouldn't be in the top 10.
No. Doesn't surprise me
There's
at all.
so many fewer Pizza Huts in this area than there ever were before. I
No, but you know what? Pizza Hut survives now on takeout. Little tiny places. Boom, they're pumping that
can't
pizza
believe it's
out.
number 10. Domino's, number 9.
Same thing.
8, Chick-fil-A.
8. I thought it'd be like number 4, 3.
7, Dunkin' Donuts. 6, Wendy's. 5, Taco Bell, which I know is close to both of your hearts. 4, Burger King. 3, Subway, in spite of, the tuna scandal.
Jared.
Number 2, no, not that one, the tuna. Not.
Sorry.
Okay, 2 scandals. Number 2, Starbucks, and number 1, McDonald's.
Starbucks? How can you say Starbucks is a fast food takeout?
They have quality breakfast sandwiches.
Oh,
Sean.
I've never had
on.
one. I've never had one.
Oh, man, you're missing out.
I guess so. Someday.
Okay.
I'll look forward to it.
Then-
Bucket list.
Then I went and found a recent article in USA Today, which talked about the American Customer Satisfaction Index. Okay, so this is not revenue based. This is based on customer
How
satisfaction.
much do you love your place?
Exactly.
There we go.
So I have the top 5.
Okay, good.
Number 5, Five Guys,
Hey,
which
I
is
like
not
Five
even
Guys.
mentioned
No.
in the top 10 revenue
That's a good
base.
burger, isn't it?
It's a good burger. I'm not really wild about the fries.
Oh, I don't mind the
But
fries. Kidding
it's
me?
not that I dislike them.
No.
But I really love the burger.
Yeah.
It's really good. Number 4, Starbucks. Number 3, KFC.
KFC.
Also not mentioned.
Really?
Not mentioned in the revenue list.
My kid, when my kid was like 8, he became like obsessed with, can we go to Kentucky Fried Chicken? Can we do that? He thought it was like, oh, I can't. He was so disappointed. I mean,
Oh, when you finally went there?
Yeah. He was like, this is it. I thought it would be something different.
If it was healthy, I'd go for it. It's not good for you.
Who cares?
Their
It's
coleslaw
fast
is
food.
the absolute bomb.
It's excellent. And who doesn't want to have a little KFC, thigh? Yeah. It's so good. It's hot, kind of greasy.
Number 2,
Yeah.
Domino's.
Really?
I was surprised at
Customer
that.
satisfaction?
Number 1,
Chick-fil-A.
you got it.
Bingo.
And not only that, okay, so the chain beat out all full service restaurants included in the survey. Okay, so let me clarify that.
Yeah.
It was the top of the list for fast food. It was also the top of the list for all what they call full service restaurants.
Excellent.
So it topped both of those lists.
Despite all the haters.
Yeah.
Listen, since when the pandemic took place, everyone was like, oh, we're stuck in our house here. Now what? I was like, let's all go to Chick-fil-A. We thought it was like, oh, it was like, oh, we could not believe we were in line at Chick-fil-A. Since the pandemic has begun, this is no exaggeration, a conservative estimate, I would say, I have been to either with my wife or my 2 sons or what, a minimum, I would say, of 35 times. A minimum.
That's so many times.
It was like, it's a reward. Like, where you go like, oh, it's Friday night, it's payday. What do you want to do? I want to go Chick-fil-A. At one point, my oldest kid was like, are you kidding me? We are back in Chick-fil-A line again. I'm like, be quiet, eat your fries.
35.
A minimum. It's a long pandemic. There's a lot of suffering
That is
going on.
so long. That is really, really long.
I love it.
I just want you to know that I'm proud of you for
Thank you.
being forthright enough to share that
I
number.
don't care. Like, don't shame me about Chick-fil-A. Look, and my menu of choices have changed. I was doing like sort of the hot and spicy deluxe there for a while. And then I would go to the nuggets, like the 12-pack. Then I was doing like the Southwest salad kind of thing.
Which is delicious.
Which is excellent.
The market salad also delicious.
The market salad is
I
very
love
good.
the market salad.
So I felt good. I'm like,
Apple cider
sometimes
vinaigrette.
I go, I'm going to Chick-fil-A. At least I'm eating a salad though. So
So will you get the waffle fries along with the salad?
no.
Oh.
But I would get a large lemonade.
Which is fabulous.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, here's the best news: is that that Chick-fil-A is topping both of these lists, and it's the 7th year in a row.
7th year, despite all the public college campuses. Not on our campus.
Get outta here.
You can't do
Get
that.
outta here.
We don't like that. They're a bunch of haters. They're hate-filled. Go Chick-fil-A. And I would suggest you go soon.
I'm envying you now. I haven't been there that much. I
We'll
feel like
get there. Have some
market
waffle
salad
fries.
tonight.
Welded, forming racial bonds at last. That's next on the ride home. racial relations in America. This is an extremely hot-button issue, and the church, in many ways, often tepid, I believe, in how we approach white, black, yellow, red.
It's a huge mountain to climb, and I think people feel like, I don't know, I don't even know how to break into that.
How so?
Well, I think that there are so many challenges with building church anyway, that when you add a racial element, like say you're doing it specifically because you want to, right? You need to figure it out.
Right, like our friend Eddie and Chris.
Exactly, right here in Pittsburgh. A lot of people, I think, feel like, you know what? I don't even know what it would take to do that, and it seems like it's going to be really hard. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can go there.
Right. Jay Stewart is with us, and we're happy to have him along with Derek Hawkins. These two men, they are founders of The Refuge. It is an intentional black-white church, and a new work is called Welded, Forming Racial Bonds That Last. And Jay, Derek, welcome to the show.
Hey, John and Kathy, thanks so much. It's such an honor to be with you guys once again.
Our pleasure, seriously.
Yeah, do we have Derek too?
Yeah, absolutely, John and Kathy. Thank you again for having us back on your show. Guys, amazing show.
Terrific. All right. So, you guys, first off, we're so grateful that you're here, and we want to understand what you guys have come to understand. And I guess we can't because we haven't lived it like you have, but I'm eager to hear how this idea started. Derek, let's start with you. Was this something that you wanted to do? Is this an opportunity that presented itself? How did it happen?
It was a God idea, and I'll make it really quick. I took my daughter to get her hair done in 2016. That winded me up meeting Pastor Jay in the concourse of a church, and for the period of the next year and a half, we sat together and deliberately had conversations around a table in an office, getting a chance to know each other, knowing each other's heart. And from there, God has literally been writing and creating a better narrative. So it was a God story. We didn't orchestrate it. God did all the orchestrating. We just followed and submitted ourselves to his plan.
Really? Wait, so Derek, you're saying you went and had your daughter's hair done, and it turned into something totally different?
Right. So I saw a sign that says The Refuge, but it was in Salisbury, North Carolina. When I called the number and it led me to Kannapolis, I'm born and raised in Salisbury, North Carolina. That's my hometown. But when I called the number, it leads me to Kannapolis. And that one appointment to go get a hair done started a lifelong connection and commitment to something better. So that's how it started. We definitely could have rigged the story.
That's cool.
Wow.
That's a great story.
All right, Jay, from your perspective, what was that initial meeting like?
Well, it was somewhat shocking because here I am. I'm the kind of pastor that doesn't hide. I stay out in what we call the concourse among people every single Sunday after every service. I'm approached in 2016 by this 6'3" young African-American man, introduces himself and tells me or asks me would I consider coaching him and mentoring him because he had been tapped with the assignment to take over an existing church in Greensboro, North Carolina, which is about 70 miles away from us. And so in that moment, I just felt there was something to this, and I agreed to do that. We started meeting, as Pastor Derek mentioned, and in that first meeting, after meeting in the concourse, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that this was a God thing, that we were meant to be together. We had no idea it would mean a church merger. We had no idea it would be a national platform with racial reconciliation. We certainly had no idea that our meeting was leading to a book that would really literally touch the nation.
Fabulous.
But I knew in that first meeting, this is a God thing.
Excellent. So, Jay and Derek, when you look back at the civil rights in the early 1960s, I mean, clearly that was a grassroots organization. And now when you look at the change that's happened in race relations in the last couple of years, it started out as a grassroots, but now it's become sort of a corporate relations sort of thing. And the church, in many ways, I'm sure you could see this yourself if you looked around you. The church is perhaps much slower to respond. So you find yourself, a white guy and a black guy, sitting across from each other. What about uncomfortability? What about honesty and transparency? Derek, I mean, you willingly went into this conversation, so you're talking to Jay, a white guy. This is a conversation you would have whether he was a pastor or not, or was there some trepidation on your end to tell the truth from how you see the truth?
No, I think I never went into it trying to reconcile races. Like, we just went into it trying to build relationships. And I think that's what God wants us to lean into his heart concerning relationships. We can't reconcile the world. Like, that's not our job. That's Christ's job to reconcile the world. But we can be reconciled to other people through obedience by establishing relationship. And so it was always about relationship. It wasn't that, hey, here's a white guy, here's a black guy. Yeah. No, here's a pastor that's had way more experience than I've ever had in pastoring that can give me wisdom. And that's what we were trying to do. We were not trying to fix the church or the world. We were just trying to build and establish a relationship.
Excellent.
Do you feel like the world is trying to fix itself right now?
I think exactly. I think there are people who might not have the same motives of reconciliation that God desires to see. I'll say that. And sometimes human error and wisdom can try to force itself to do something that God has not intended them to do because they're not relational in the relationship building aspect of things.
So as you guys now, how long ago was this meeting?
Just recently, a couple of years, right?
Yeah, so
2016
was our first initial meeting, and then the merger took place November of 2016. And then our book Welded released just a year ago this month.
Yeah. Okay, okay, Jay, I'm going to turn to you. What over these 6 years has surprised you most?
I don't know if there's anything that has surprised me except the uncomfortability that so many people have when it comes to having conversations with people who look different than they do. I was raised in the Deep South. From the third grade on, I was always in schools with people of different color than I was. So I was very comfortable. I was the only white guy on my basketball team. So it didn't feel like a big deal to me. It just felt like this is about relationship. That's what we're called to do. Unity is a big deal to the Lord. But we discovered in this journey that so many people don't know how to begin. They don't know how to start a conversation. They don't know where to start. And they're so afraid of saying the wrong thing or offending the other person that they just go, you know what, I think I'll just not even go there. And that's so sad to me because we're missing out. Listen, I'm a much better man because of my relationship with Pastor Derek Hawkins. And we miss out on so much that we can glean and draw from each other through relationship. And I think the biggest discovery for me has just been how uncomfortable so many people are when it comes to this. We've made great progress in America, but we still have a long ways to go. And unfortunately, there's people that have different agendas that have hijacked great causes like racial reconciliation to support their own agendas.
Yeah.
And there's not a desire for unity. There's a desire to advance their cause.
Yeah.
And it's tainted something that really can be so beautiful.
So that's interesting, Jay, that you would say that, because Derek said basically the same thing as well, right? That different agendas muddy the water. Now, of course, I mean, this is the land of the free, so everybody's got their own agenda going on. But how do we as the church get through all that clutter and all that whatever is going on and cloud that agenda up and bring the clarity back to Jesus? I mean, Derek, Jay, talk about this, Derek. I mean, from your perspective, if it is uncomfortable, and of course it is uncomfortable, and people are a little weirded out by it because you don't want to, make anybody angry or all of a sudden there's an explosion or whatever your worst fear or nightmare is sitting across from someone, with the relationship in the middle. How do you set the agenda? What are those terms when you two get together and go, this is what we're going to do, and this is the agenda that we're going to set forward? Derek?
Well, here's the thing, though. So there's an agenda of the world, and then there's a kingdom of God. We're called to be light in the midst of darkness. Ephesians 4 talks about making every effort to preserve unity. As the church, it's our responsibility. It's not my job to go and fix the world, but it's my job to proclaim truth into darkness. And so whatever that looks like on the set of the church for us, it's just been preserving those relationships, Pastor Jay always says this: seeking to understand more than seeking to be understood. And so my job is just literally trying to know him in a better way. He says, I made his life better. He's definitely made not only my life, but my family's life better because I know him. So that's not about the color of his skin. It's who he is as a man of integrity. And so I think if we literally look at people's hearts instead of their skin color, then the maturity part of that is that we all have something as a part of the body of Christ that we add to each other's lives.
The new book is called Welded, Forming Racial Bonds That Last. We're talking to the two authors, Jay Stewart and Derek Hawkins, founders of The Refuge. All right, so you guys, when you look back at the last 5 or 6 years, I asked you what was the most surprising thing. What was the hardest hurdle that you had? And I'm curious if it had to do with a racial thing or it just had to do with like a general thing that people would suffer with when they're trying to
Any
plant
kind
a
of church.
Jay, we'll go with you first.
Okay, great. Golly, there's been many challenges. I think maybe it's probably been more challenging for Pastor Derek than it has been for me. I don't know that for sure, but I would guess that. But you got to consider the context of when all of this has happened. So, 2016, we merged our churches. 2016, Donald Trump is elected as the president, and it polarizes the nation, right, over many things. But one of the things was over race. And there's all these accusations against him, right or wrong, about, he's a racist and all this kind of stuff. So the tension in our nation just ramped up like crazy. And it only increased leading up to this last election in 2020. And there was so much hostility, so many opinions circulating around this whole thing of race. And here we are, just trying to fulfill the heart of God in this, yet both of us being attacked because of the stand that we had taken for racial reconciliation. We were misunderstood. We were accused of different things.
Really?
Even people in our church. I mean, I had people that left the Refuge because of the stand that I took for racial unity.
Wow.
And so how do you respond to that? I mean, peace be with you, right? My peace I give you.
Yeah.
If people are mad about that, I mean, how do you can't talk to somebody, or do you, or did you try?
Well, I mean, I do try. I've tried to point people back to Scripture. I've tried to point them to the priority that God put on unity and lead them back to Psalm 133 and, all of those things. But I can't make somebody believe certain things. I can't convince them of certain things if they're not willing to see it. And at some point, I have to, just say, like you said, John, peace be with you. And we're gonna stay faithful to what we're called to do. We're in this for the long haul because this is important to the Lord. So we're not stopping just because of some misunderstandings or opposition or accusations.
Good for you.
We're going to keep pressing on to this. And listen, we talk about this in the book. What's at stake is not just, us looking good or, hey, let's hold hands and all sing Kumbaya. No. What's at stake is revival. That's ultimately what's at stake. What's at stake is the advancement of the kingdom of God. And in my opinion, that's worth fighting for.
That's Jay Stewart. He and Derek Hawkins are authors of the book Welded, Forming Racial Bonds That Last. Hey, you guys, we need to take a break. When we come back, Derek, I'm going to throw it to you and ask you about the same issue that Jay was talking about, what that was like from your perspective. Thanks for being along. It's the Tuesday edition. Ride home.
Pastors Derek Hawkins and Jay Stewart are with us. They are the pastors of the Refuge in North Carolina, also co-authors of the book Welded, Forming Racial Bonds That Last.
Before the break, Derek, I asked Jay if he could tell me about what he thought was, the biggest challenge since you guys have been together the last 6 years or so. And he answered that he thought that, especially politically, things have been really dicey. And then when it came time to take a stand for, racial reconciliation of some sort, at least racial equality, people got mad. Derek, from your perspective, do you think that was the hardest part as well?
Well, I think for me, there's a few different challenges. Of course, we merged our churches in the midst of a few different things. We had the election, so we were out of the Obama administration into a different administration. So with the President Trump's administration, that was different. And so a lot of people, then there's the whole submission to a person that's a white figure of authority. And so a lot of the challenges inside of our congregation was, could we not have found anybody else to merge with? Some of it was very few, maybe 1%. But we still had to navigate through those questions, and I had to always point them back to the cross. Like, we're submitted to the cross, not to a person. We're submitted to the Spirit of God in Pastor Jay and the excellent spirit that they carry. So I had to always point them back to the cross, but we also had to answer the hard questions. It was a difficult period of transition from administrations, and a majority of African Americans did not vote. They voted for Hillary Clinton. So having to walk them through what that looks like. And we stand on the side of kingdom. We don't stand on the side of a political party. We stand on the side of kingdom. So right is right, wrong is wrong. And I had to navigate them through those things privately, one-on-one in situations. But Pastor Jay has always been open with any questions that I had, was willing to answer them. Any challenges that we face as a campus, he's always led by example. And we trusted the Spirit of God to lead us through those muddy waters. Like, we didn't try to walk through them ourselves.
Fabulous. So talk about worship then. I mean, when there have been major racial flashpoints in this country in the last few years, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, all those things, that everybody, you read about it, you talk about it, you think about it. What is that like, in church proper? I mean, do those flashpoints, guys, do they find their way to the pulpit, or are they better addressed, in Bible study hour or coffee before and after? What's that look like in your church? Jay?
Well, we've tried to be very open in addressing some of those issues. And, of course, things were at such a heightened amount of tension around the incidences that you mentioned, Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd. And so, we knew it wasn't something we could just ignore or try to sweep under the rug. We just had to create opportunities for there to be open dialogue about it. And what we did is we tried to just bring it into a prayer setting and say, look, this is happening. It's uncomfortable for all of us. I mean, I'll never forget on a Wednesday night, an African-American couple in our church who were deacons in our church who walked in. This was right after the George Floyd incident, walked in on that Wednesday night. They're just, heavy and said to me, Pastor, this is so hard. Like, we're struggling so bad. And so we were able to just have conversations, open conversations about all of that, and then really lead people to a place of prayer, because that's where we feel like, the greatest answers are going to come. But yeah, it was a challenging season, but what we've tried to model for people between our relationship, Derek and I, is that we're very open with each other. We're courageous in talking about things that maybe are uncomfortable. And like you said earlier, we seek to understand more than we seek to be understood. We value the relationship more than we value being right. Mm-hmm. And so we put high priority on the relationship. And we've modeled that for people. And then we say, in the larger setting, listen, it's safe to talk about this stuff. It's safe to share your feelings or your struggles, and we'll take it to the Lord together. We're going to pray together. We're going to go to the Lord together, and we'll find the peace that can only come from Him.
Yeah, and Derek, from your perspective, I mean, has it been safe for you, or people kind of go, I can't bring this up. You know, I might talk to my family about this, but to talk to a white audience about this, it seems a little dicey. How's that work?
So here's the thing. I think there is an opposing spirit to everything. There are people in this country that do not want reconciliation.
Yeah.
That's just the truth.
Yeah,
I
you're
agree.
right.
So everybody, I mean, let's be honest, everybody does not want reconciliation. So for those who don't, it doesn't matter if Jesus came down himself, they would still be bitter. They would still be upset. They would still find something. I mean, you know, it's that one person at Thanksgiving that no matter how good the food is, they're going to find one thing wrong. Like we have those people. So I'm just going to be honest. So we can never appease anybody. We're not there to appease. Jesus came to bring a sword. And so sometimes that sword is divisive. It divides. And so when we're standing on the side of truth and righteousness, we are covered together under the banner of the presence of God through worship. And what we strategically try to do in this season of our churches and lives is to keep the presence of God the priority, to make sure Jesus is the center and to be led by the Holy Spirit. Because any time we seek to go our own way, we will always mess up the divinity of God, the plan of God, if we try to go our own way. So we've literally depended. Yes, has there been time our flesh rises up? Yes, is it time you see stuff happens on the news that you don't get upset? Absolutely. Each one of us, and it can be for our own kids. It's not just always about race. It's about injustice. And injustice is not just about a different color race. Injustice is just injustice. So our hearts cry out for injustice. And it might just happen to be a person of an opposite race who's facing injustice. But our soul should still cry out for the same thing.
That's Derek Hawkins and Jay Stewart. You guys, I have one question to ask you as we close, but I'm going to have to ask you for a fast answer, which is really unfair. That I'm going to ask a question and tell you have to answer it fast.
Go.
But, you know, this is what it is in radio. All right. I just want to hear something that each one of you feel like you gained from that other person that you wouldn't have gained if you had chosen a different life path.
Yeah, Jay?
I feel like that I have learned a greater appreciation for leveraging the differences for the sake of the kingdom of God, not just tolerating differences, but leveraging them for the advancement of the kingdom of God. There's so many things that are different about Derek Hawkins than there are about Jay Stewart, but I so value and appreciate those differences.
That's good. Derek?
I've learned humility. I've learned how to be a better husband, a better father, a better person. I learned how to be a better shepherd, a better pastor, a better man because of Pastor Jay Stewart. He just isn't a white pastor that I've had a chance to do life with, but he's become a father that I get a chance to get wisdom from. And so for me, it's never been about the color of his skin. It's always been about the measure of his heart.
Fabulous. Guys, I mean,
thank you
would
so
it were that this model spread nation and worldwide. We really appreciate the work that you're doing and love to grab onto those coattails and make it work wherever you guys go.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Guys so much for the opportunity to be with you today.
Yeah.
Truly, the pleasure's been ours.
Don't you love those guys?
Sure do.
That's Derek Hawkins and Jay Stewart. They're the authors of Welded, Forming Racial Bonds That Last. this make sense?
Does what make sense?
Leather car seats. So you got your fabric option. You got your leather option.
Yeah.
Now, I never had leather until I bought a used car about 5 years ago.
It's got leather.
Maybe more than that. It had leather in it. And so I lived with it for a while. And now the current car I have does not have leather.
Yeah.
So I ask you, John, do leather car seats make sense?
I've never had a leather car seat myself. But I would imagine, like a leather couch, it softens and conforms to the body. So I would imagine it'd be a nice thing to have. So yeah, I would think that would make sense. I just can imagine.
Disagree, John.
What?
10 out
Come
of
on
10,
now.
10 out of 10 times.
What are you saying? Why, you think it's too slippery?
This is what it is. In the summer,
Yeah.
it's really hot.
That's why they have AC.
Okay, it's hot. It's a little gross. Okay.
Really?
In the winter, it's freezing
Really?
cold.
I had no idea.
Freezing cold. So I had a seat, like a heated seat thing,
Oh, yeah, sure.
but nobody else does in the car.
Oh,
You don't. So I got to be honest with you. After that, I think I had that car maybe 3 or 4. You know that car that was always
Oh, that one.
my Nissan Murano
Oh,
that was an
yeah.
absolute disaster.
That was. Whew. Good riddance. to that
I'm
car.
not getting him again ever. Even if I had all the cash in the world,
Really?
I'm not having leather seats again because you know why? They don't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. All right, well, you might have saved me some heartache later on down the line.
Glad I could help.
All right, well, speaking of cold weather, does this make sense? The puffy down vest. I mean, I see people wearing the little vest, and I'm thinking, well, that looks okay. That's a little fashion thing. But is that guy is he a manager at Lowe's? Or what about his arms? It's 10 degrees out. Of course, your chest and your stomach and your back are okay. But aren't your arms cold? It doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense. Now, some people, it might look good. That's the fashion sense of it all. But really, does the down vest have a place?
Yes.
What?
The down vest is so placeful.
It looks
I
like
made
you
up that
forgot
word.
to get dressed.
It's so great because it's so much less bulky. You're keeping your torso warm. You're good. But when you're driving in your car, you're not overwhelmed by your coat. No, you feel slightly streamlined, yet still warm. I love the down puffer vest, John.
Really?
I think the down puffer vest, yes, totally makes sense.
Well, I see it, and sometimes I think, maybe I'll get one of those. And then I think, no, I just want to stay warm all over. So from my perspective, the down vest doesn't make a lot of sense.
Leather car seats, forget it.
You look at Hollywood actors, and you sort of divide it down into Pittsburgh Hollywood connection. I think sort of the definitive Pittsburgh Hollywood guy, for my money, is Michael Keaton. He reeks Pittsburgh, right? I mean, he's just like an every guy. Somebody that's very relatable, somebody's, very kind, good, strong work ethic. Heck, if he was Batman. I mean, if that's super cool. On the opposite side of that coin, I would say the sort of anti-Pittsburgh Hollywood star, but still a Hollywood star, is Jeff Goldblum. Now, Jeff Goldblum, quirky as the day is long, but a massive career. I mean, Jeff Goldblum's probably appeared in about, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 to 80 movies.
Wow.
It's a gigantic career. There is a great profile of Jeff Goldblum in the Wall Street Journal. The headline is kind of misleading. Why Jeff Goldblum eliminated caffeine from his diet.
And that was like
one second.
That was real. It's a terrible headline.
Right.
So that's today's Journal, and I read it. You read it.
Yeah, I loved it.
And I loved it too. Why do you consider him like the anti-hero to the
everyman Michael Keaton?
Michael Keaton.
Because he's quirky as the day is long.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not necessarily what you would say Pittsburgh. He is super, super quirky.
Also, Michael Keaton gives off more of a blue-collar vibe, and Jeff Goldblum gives off a more white-collar vibe.
Right. Now, Jeff Goldblum, in the article, they say he was born in Pennsylvania. Yeah. I mean, could you narrow it down a little bit? Yeah. He was born, actually, in West Homestead. Right. Lived in the Greenfield neighborhood of the city of Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. But just...
His dad was chief of medicine at a hospital here in Pittsburgh.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So obviously, a really bright guy. And his movie choices, especially as he became an established actor, really, really interesting stuff. But the profile is kind of strange in that it shows like a daily routine of what it is to be Jeff Goldblum. Mm-hmm. What struck you from it?
The first thing that struck me is that he wakes up in the morning and practices the piano.
Early. 4:30 or 5 o'clock. It's like your husband.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot like that. So he's a jazz pianist, if you're not familiar with Jeff Goldblum's music, and he's played for a long, long, long time. And it's pretty serious. Jazz is not. His music isn't my favorite. Doesn't matter. I still love him. I absolutely love him. And he's very, very good. And that's a part of his daily discipline. He also, I don't know how old he is. You have any idea?
I think he's 78.
Okay. He's got kids that are 4 and 6.
Right. Yeah. He says, Emil and I.
He's 69.
69. Oh, I thought he was a decade later. Emil and I have a couple of kids who are 6 and 4. They get up routinely because they go to bed at 7:15 or 7:30. They get up at 6:30ish, and then we got to fix them breakfast. By 7:15, I'm playing piano with my son. He takes a couple of lessons a week. By 7:45, they're out the door, but I like to get in a lot of work done before they get up. That's why he gets up so early, to have that quiet time.
Right.
Now, okay, so when you look back at Jeff Goldblum, is there a favorite Jeff Goldblum movie?
Absolutely.
Oh, tell me.
Oh, Jurassic Park.
Oh.
Yes.
I don't like that movie. That movie,
listen,
that's one of
that
my
was my dream come true. I love Jurassic Park. I
don't like that kind of movie.
Well, it's
like an action adventure movie.
So sad for you. I love action adventure movies.
It's like
Christy, do you like Jurassic Park?
I do like Jurassic Park.
I mean,
you know what? Because what would be better than dinosaurs being alive and you being able to see? That's just epic.
Cheesy. It's really super cheesy.
It's not just.
I mean, he made his mark, right? How about The Fly?
I like The Fly.
Fabulous. The Grand Budapest Hotel.
I never saw that.
Oh. Well, he is. So Wes Anderson, the filmmaker, he's one of Wes Anderson's sort of like stock players.
Sure.
Part of the,
like
part of the ensemble.
Like Holly Hunter to the Coen brothers.
Exactly. Part of the ensemble, right? He's in Guardians of the Galaxy, too.
Oh, my gosh. He was great. Mm-hmm. Absolutely great.
The first time I saw Jeff Goldblum.
He was in Thor Ragnarok, right?
Oh, what? What's that? That's another Jurassic Park thing?
No, is that another Jurassic Park thing?
I mean, come on.
Oh, my gosh.
How about The Big Chill? I can't overstate the importance of that movie.
I've never seen it.
Oh, see. 1983 was the first time you see Jeff Goldblum on the big screen.
And that was in that?
Mm-hmm. And it's a gathering of college friends who get together for the star, pretty much, of their college scene for his funeral. And it's a great movie. It's like, a revisiting of old grudges, romances, addictions, weird stories. It's a terrific film, The Big Chill. I saw it maybe.
Would it still stand up? I mean, it's got to be 30 years old.
It was 1983.
Yeah, okay.
It's a little, but it still has good bones.
Okay.
Yeah, so it stands up, yeah. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Jeff
Never
Goldblum.
saw it.
Thor. There's that Thor. I don't know. The weird thing about the whole Jeff Goldblum article, and if you're a fan, I would highly recommend it, is his vitamin thing.
Oh, right. So he takes his vitamins, and it's not like he's taken a couple, that
No.
you buy at Sam's Club. They have to dissolve in water.
He's mixing
And
it
he
with
has to,
honey and throwing all
stir
kind
them
of.
up?
But he seems like like he said, oh my, someone said, you need to try this and do this and the vitamin thing. That's always odd to me.
But people take vitamins? You don't take vitamins?
I don't take a vitamin.
Chris,
What are you guys making faces at me like
Chris, do you take a vitamin?
I take vitamins every day.
really?
You don't take vitamins?
I haven't taken a vitamin ever.
What?
What am I taking a vitamin for?
What are you talking about?
I'm fine. Am I not healthy?
Yeah.
Okay. What do I need a vitamin for? I think I'm eating some decent food and I'm getting enough and moving around. I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
A vitamin doesn't make sense.